And I'm coming from the perspective of not the ACES side of things, but really just the overview of where we see education going to, but particularly bringing the narrative back down to South Africa and what that all means. So just a couple of things. Well, there we go. Just so that everybody can put some things into context. A child that is going into school in 2023, this is how old we are, will matriculate in 2036 and will go into retirement in 2083. And the reality is that's a scary, scary thought, that when we're talking about the impact that we're making as technologists in education, that we're talking about a generation that's going to be retiring towards the end of the century. Just as a show of hands, anybody here who was born before 1983? Yeah, there you go. 100 years past your birth date, that's when the people that we are impacting are going to actually retire. So I just want to show you something. This is some screenshots of what was presented all the way back in 2010 of what was going to take place within the education sector. Google was talking about expanding from America into the UK. They were talking around about 20 million people online in terms of education. You had other areas there. What is inclusive education? On the top right-hand side, 21st century, that's what the classroom was viewed as. What is the classroom going to look like in 2021, or in the 21st century? And there's a lot of aspects of that that are really true to life, and that's there. But we got to look further than just 10 years back and 10 years forward. So what this is a World Economic Forum prediction as to what they believe learning in 2050 is going to look like. So what we're saying is that school's going to be extended. Just as a show of hands here, how many people here have studied in the last 5 years in one form or another? Okay, case in point. People are going to school and going back to school at later age groups, and they're going because the benefit and what we refer to as the democratization of education, in other words, it's become more accessible for everybody, is a big reality in the day-to-day lives of people. And that's quite key. Education is becoming outsourced. What does it mean? What does it mean to become outsourced? Well, gone are the days where you go to a school and that was your only option. Now you've got multiple options. You can go and you can get educated online, and you can get an American degree from South Africa, and you can get an Australian degree from South Africa, and vice versa. So it's being outsourced, but also, more importantly than that, the social side of it is starting to take more and more effect in the business, in life. So in other words, how are kids interacting? What is happening within the lifestyle, and what does that technology actually mean? Schools are becoming learning hubs. Imagine going in the next 10 years to a town hall, where instead of it being a town hall that hosts the choir, it's been set up where people can come in and dock in, and they can just learn as they go. That is the future that is being predicted. And then there's also the learn as you go concept. The learn as you go concept is exactly what we were talking about a little bit earlier as well, where people can learn, do short courses, and the continuous learning that takes place. And all of that is key to where this education cycle and where things are going to. So when we look at there, and we look at it from a very, very rudimentary point of view, we've got to understand what it means to be in the classroom of 2023, 2024, and even beyond. When we sit with schools as ASA, one of the things we do is we say, before you decide what technology you're wanting to actually implement, before you decide there, start and say, what does your classroom look like in 10 years' time? And then move backwards from there. So you've got to look at things like, for example, what is the impact on teaching? What about technology in terms of productivity and what it can add? What about accessibility? How does that work? What is it going to be? Accessibility comes with its own set of challenges like security and things like that. And then, of course, most importantly, everything starts with education and the pedagogy around education. That is the way that it actually gets taught. So there are three major platforms that you can be educated on. The very first one, so you've got Chrome, which is a big one. Microsoft is the second one. And then, of course, you've got Apple. Those are the three major ones that we look at. This is an example of what is happening with one of the schools that we've been working with. What I want you to look out for are the 7 points on the right, I think 8 points on the right. Multiple user deployment, technology as an enabler, quick access, flexibility, always on learning, ease of use, how secure that environment is, and it's fit for purpose. Mark's going to take you through this now, who's the head of the school. Can you hear?
We're a non-profit company that comprises 5 units, the college, 2 primary schools, and 2 nursery schools. In the Kalami Schools Group, we have 1,550 students, and I would say about 370 students use Chromebooks on a regular daily basis in our schools. I've always viewed technology as an enabler. So teachers are good teachers without technology, but they become better in terms of transferring the curriculum and transferring the skills they want to teach with technology.
I love using the laptop for coding mostly, because when I code on the Acer Chromebook, it lets my imagination go free. I can do whatever I like with it, because it's just for me to test what my knowledge and improve my knowledge.
For us, the Acer Chromebook is something that is quick to start up. It can be used in every classroom. It integrates beautifully for students and staff in terms of the students using the Chromebook in terms of their daily work, and the staff delivering their lessons using the Chromebook as the device of choice.
One of the things that I've been delighted with the Chromebook is the way we can move it around the school. If a teacher has a device that fails, you walk out of the classroom with the failed device, you can put in a new device, they just log on and it's instant. I love the fact that it's instant on. There's no waiting 3 minutes or 4 minutes for the wheels of the bus to go round and round and round. The children log on, they're in, they're working straight away. They can work all over the school. The school's got Wi-Fi hotspots, so it's fantastic.
My Chromebook has allowed me to make it just a bit more organized and easier to find things.
It's a lot easier, it's faster, and it's more compatible with certain apps. I love the Chromebook.
The parents like the fact that we can secure the network. So once the children are on the school network, that device is totally locked down to what we will allow them to have. And we can totally manage what they're seeing, what they're doing, where they're going. And the parents can set up the same system at home. And I think that peace of mind is wonderful. They also like the fact that the device is robust. They love the fact that it can be like a notebook, it can be a tablet, it can be in your 10 format, you can use it in all those formats. So it's those things that the parents like, and the fact that they will continue, so if they go from us to our college, they'll use the same device for 5 years.
The Acer Kalami Schools partnership has been critical to us moving forward in terms of the Chromebooks. Acer has really come on board to support us, even on a technical level, and without their support, without them listening to what our requirements and our needs are from a user perspective, we wouldn't be as far in this journey as we would be today.
So ladies and gentlemen, what you'll see is you see the fundamentals of what is required within an education environment. And as we go through the conversation today, you're going to see it coming up more and more. So look out for the couple of things that we need to talk about. Multiple user deployment. What does that mean? It means more devices into more hands. Technology is an enabler. Quick access. How do we get going quickly in the classroom? Teachers will tell you the number one frustration with technology in the classroom is the amount of time it takes to get the computer going and the amount of lesson time and teaching time it gets into. Flexibility, the ability to move and learn anywhere, what we refer to as always-on learning, and then of course ease of use. And security is obviously a main factor that always comes through. And then finally, the device itself has to be fit for purpose. If the device goes down, learning stops. So it's very important that that comes in, and that's where Acer fits in. That's my portion where we're going to start paying bills. Every now and then I'll mention Acer so we can pay a few bills. But nonetheless, my focus today, as I said, what we want to really look at are the top trends within education. And why we want to focus on this is because we want people, we want resellers like yourselves to start thinking about education and the opportunities that lie in education. Okay, it's very, very key that you understand where we fit in and our role within education. The last thing that we'll do today is I'll give you a bit of a synopsis as we see education going to, or I personally see education, one of the options within South Africa. So what is the first thing we've got to look at? We've got to look at the children. We've got to look at the learner. Everything starts with the learner. If you don't have an engaged learner, you don't have a class to actually attend. And that's quite important. So we've broken it up into 4. Apologies if you can't read it, I'll read them through for you. The very first one is the Digit Kid, the Maverick, the Solar Punk Kid, and the Designer Kid. And these are personality types of the children that we're dealing with. Remember, a kid entering into school in 2023, they're going to be here for the next 12 years. You're talking there 2035 when they're going to graduate. This is the generation that we're talking about teaching. So what does it actually mean? What is a digital kid? Well, first and foremost, that's an empowered learner. It's somebody who's going to go out and actually learn and that. Keep tugging this back into the technology, guys. Keep the technology in the back and what is required to get there, because that's the underlying thread here. The creator and the communicator, the new thinking. These individuals, the kids we're dealing with nowadays in schools are not like the old days. I saw a post that went out about Ghana where the educator or the head of education was stating, he was saying categorically, guys, listen, this is great, but we walk into schools in Africa and no one questions. No one questions the teacher. They take it for granted. That's changing. And people will start questioning. Kids are questioning more and more. They're digital citizens. They know the shortcuts. They know how to do things faster. They know how to get the information. One of the biggest fears of teachers nowadays is that the kids know more than they do. Why? Because they've got access to Google. Okay. And they're global collaborators. Vast majority of kids that are online are not talking to their friends that are a kilometer or 5 or 10 kilometers down the road. They're talking to people overseas. And they're playing games with guys overseas. The maverick kid is a kid who does what he wants. Now, in the past, we used to see these as disruptive kids. These are the kids that questioned everything. But questioning is good. Kids have to grow up questioning things. Otherwise, what happens? Questioning children develop critical thinking. Why is critical thinking? Well, imagine if you've got a generation of people who just accept everything and don't go and don't ask questions. Imagine if they did that of the politicians, where our country would be if we didn't question the politicians. Won't go there. Driver for constant learning, constantly learning. We did this exercise earlier. How many people in the audience are busy studying or have studied in the last 5 years? That is the digital kid, and this is the maverick, people who are questioning the way the world is. They become independent problem solvers. This is quite important. I was listening to a talk the other day, and there were 3 things that he mentioned, that the presenter mentioned. He said the very first thing we've got to do if we want to fix our kids and we fix our world and everything is teach kids how to recognize patterns. Second thing what they need to do is recognize how to navigate patterns, how to get around the patterns. And then the third thing they need to do is learn how to create patterns. Now, in a digital world, if you can identify a pattern, think about your business, whether it's theft, whether it's who's buying what, etc. See how that pattern works and understand that pattern and how to navigate that pattern. And then finally, how to build more of these patterns. That's what business is about. That's what the world is about. That comes from critical thinking, and that's what technology aims to drive, and that's what the maverick kid is going to do. We need to know, these maverick kids, if they don't like the answer that you give them, they know where to find it, and they're going to go and look for it and try and find that answer. So this is the kid that we're busy educating, okay? But what about the teachers? So the teachers need to also change, and we're not going to spend too much time because I'm not a teacher, so I don't want to put myself in their shoes, and many of them are doing this, where they're shifting from instructions, standing in front of the class with a whiteboard, telling the kids, to mentoring kids. If you think about the teachers that have made an impact in your life, how many of those were the ones that stood up and lectured you? Not many. Most of them were the ones that pulled alongside you and that. In a digital world, and in the world that we're moving into, mentorship is more important than lecturing, and that's going to be quite key in the whole thing. They need to know how to embrace technology. We deal with a lot of the big schools around. What is their number one obstacle? The inability of teachers to adopt technology in the classroom. Again, I come back to you guys within your business. Is there a business opportunity for you to get involved and help with the technology adoption in the schools? The answer is yes, there definitely is. Expanded learning beyond the classroom. That's what the teachers also have to where they need to go to. What does that mean? I mean, the last 2 years, if nothing else has taught us, we need to be able to go online like that. We need to be able to click our fingers and go online and learn beyond the classroom. The classroom is nothing more than geographic going forward. And then be a learner for life. Again, I come back. Continue studying, continue learning. And that's what the teachers need to have a look at and become. I want to have a look at some of the stuff within the classroom. And one of the areas is the artificial intelligence. And I know the guys mentioned a little bit earlier on artificial intelligence. But when you want to have a look at some of the stuff here, artificial intelligence, 45% growth annually. Businesses are going to start securing kids and offering kids jobs when they're in grade 8 and grade 9 based on what the artificial intelligence is telling them that kid can do. All right? That's what's going to start happening. You've got to understand that obviously online learning is there, and online learning is going to not go away. And within that area of artificial intelligence, what does it do? Well, there's areas that are in and around that are quite key. Let me just come up. Sorry, I'm a little bit misguided because I can't hear the music that's supposed to be coming through. But things like adaptive learning. Adaptive learning talks about each individual kid learning at their own pace and understanding and being able to progress. The Montessori schools had this right many years ago and everybody thought they were new age. Well, that's not true. The other area is what we refer to as proctoring. So proctoring is the ability to track and trace and assess. Is it Glenn who's in front of the computer, and what is Glenn's marks? And within that area, where are the areas of development that we can come in? So proctoring is quite important in terms of where it's going to. All of this requires the technology that you see around you. All of this is the opportunity of where the world is going to. Student enrollment, one of the biggest downfalls of COVID was the amount of learners that dropped out of school and didn't go to school simply because they were scared of the pandemic. Using technology to trace patterns. Microsoft has launched a fantastic little widget on their app, on their Microsoft Teams, where you can see and the kids can do a check-in every morning to turn around and say, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling stressed, so that you can put that data together and pick up problems. Remember, everything is about coaching. Upskilling is also very, very important, and artificial intelligence will assist in growing this area and really building in and around what we can and can't do to help our kids learn and learn a lot faster. Finally, the last one is the marking and the assessments. This is key. Imagine sitting in a classroom. Let me go back a step here. I don't know if you're aware of this. This is a sad fact, but a fact nonetheless. Schools have done some research, and it's actually it was based on the Canadian Hockey League where the research came out of. And this was what was quite extensive, is they sat down in one of the all-star hockey games for the Canadian Hockey League. And what they noticed, one of the professors in a university there, they noticed that all the ages of the guys who were representing Canada were in the first 5 months of the year. And they went into the detail and they started mining it. Do you know that there's a higher percentage of behavioral issues with children born in the second half of the year than the first half of the year? Did you know that? Why? Did you know that the vast majority of children who go to Honours Evening in South Africa are born at the beginning of the year and not at the end of the year? How frightening is that? Why is that? Well, think about it. If you're a 7-year-old and you're born in November, you're competing with a kid who was born in January who is 12% older than you. And what happens? Well, the kid that was born at the beginning of the year, they get the attention. They get the pat on the back. They get the encouragement. The one at the end of the year, sit down, keep quiet. Oh, he's a problem child. He needs to learn. I know, I was born in November. Okay, I've lived this. Jokes aside, but this is the reality. Now, if you've got artificial intelligence that can do assessment and pace-based individualized learning, that's what's going to make the change. What does this mean to you? Look around you. Everything that we're talking about, every single stop here that you've gone to, whether it's the Acer stand, the Lenovo stand, the Asus stand, even the Echo Flow stand, everything is built around making this work. And it's an important opportunity that we mustn't forget. So when we have a look at the classroom, there are a couple of things that we've got to look at and we've got to understand. Online growth is not going away. You know, like you've got the retailers out there, Incredible Connection, for example, or Macro, use those guys. They've got brick and mortar stores. Now they've gone online, right? And then you've got the combination of the two. It's called Omni Retail. We're talking about the Omni Classroom. The Omni Classroom is a classroom that is both online and is a brick and mortar combination of the two. So it combines the two together, becoming the Omni Classroom. And that's what we've got to understand is happening there. The classroom doesn't have to be physical anymore. There's learning environments that you can go into, and that's there. Most of us know this stuff. The explosion of online resources, things like artificial intelligence. You know, imagine if you're now trying to do online learning. In fact, don't imagine. Think about the last 3 years, or the last 2 years, where we try to do online learning, and the teachers were spending the vast majority of their time trying to calm the kids down, not knowing where everybody's at, etc., etc. Those resources are being built, and money is being pumped into that at a rate of knots. And connectivity becomes a primary issue. Your routers, your infrastructure, things like that need to be in place for the modern classroom to work effectively. We know that. What I want to do now is this is a school class, and we've spoken about what we visualize the future to look like. I want to show you what is happening in South Africa that was launched about a month ago.
Hi there, I'm John Louis, and I am the CEO and founder of IVA Global Online School. I'm hoping to convince you, if you're a student, to become an IVA, and if you're a parent, to become an IVA parent. What is an IVA? An IVA is a student represented by way of an avatar in the world's very first 3D virtual school environment, which is called the IVA Global School. Imagine your child being online in a space of their choice, but still walking through the school gates every morning and meeting their schoolmates in the courtyard. Imagine them being online, but yet present in a classroom in front of their teacher. The IVA Global Online School, we are not bound by the school location or its boundary wall. Your child's education should be your number one priority, and you should invest time in understanding and ensuring your child has the very best the world has to offer. Choose IVA Global Online School if you're serious about your child's education.
So if you ever look at IVA school, and I take you back to that World Economic Forum slide, everything they spoke about happening in 2050 was launched last month. Everything they spoke about in 2050 was launched last month. That's the reality of where education is going to. Education is moving at a pace of knots. Again, I keep coming back. What is the opportunity for you? Education, as we say in the office, is guaranteed. Number one, people will always procreate. Number two, kids will always need to be educated. Okay? And so those two combined, what's the third element and the third leg to that? Well, technology will always be there. It'll always be adapting. It'll always be new people coming in, new technologies being invented. It's got to be one of the biggest opportunities of you. If you think cloud is big, you haven't a clue as to how big this side and this sector of the market actually is going to be. So IVA Schools is doing a really, really phenomenal job in terms of some of the stuff they're doing. Is that for everybody? Nah, maybe not. But it's combining the augmented, the virtual reality and things like that as well. So what do we know about the content? This is quite important. What is the content that is going to be pushed down? First of all, it has to be innovative, and it has to be collaborative, and people need to be able to use it and work with it. The second side of it, it has to be graphic. Why? Because we've got digital kids. We've got kids who are learning things and watching, they're learning things, they're getting news bulletins delivered in under 30 seconds. Imagine trying to get a kid to sit through a 45-minute lecture that Glenn's giving on a stage here about what's going on in education, etc. They'll be switched off, they'll go. Not because they can't concentrate, but because they learn quicker and they get captivated a lot quicker. So we have to have that. We need to be concise in the way that we deliver. I'm building and showing you where this is all going to. And then, of course, we need to be able to bring that experience to life. So what does that mean? Well, let's take, for example, one of the areas that we're speaking about, which we speak a lot about. What is about the role of esports in education? Esports in education, a lot of people are talking about esports in education. But the one thing that we believe is missing is that shift from what we refer to as extracurricular, where they do esports as a traditional sport, versus co-curricular, where it moves into the classroom and people actually actively learn using esports and in and around that. So what does that mean? It's an integrated into learning. And what does it actually teach the kids? Aside from the core learnings, for example, the cognitive skills like coding and things like that, there's also the social skills, or the soft skills, and that side of it. So there's a lot of things that kids will learn in and around it. I'm going to steal something here, and this is a school that is launched now. It's called Centennial School. It's out in Sunny Hill, and this was equipped by one of our competitors. It's on the web, but you'll see their brand come up there. They've done a phenomenal job at making esports a reality in their school. What a better attraction to get kids to come to your school than having an esports lab that everybody can do it. What's nice about Centennial Schools is they're integrating it into the learning. They've invested over 3.5 million rand in their esports lab, okay? And they're bringing it to life, and they're bringing it into the lesson. And you can go and enroll now. It's out in Sunny Hill. It's one of the most amazing experiences there. What else is going to be in the classroom? Well, there's this side of it. What we refer to, there's AR, VR, and what we call MR. So AR, everybody knows, augmented reality. You've heard of that. We'll touch on that briefly. VR, virtual reality, and MR, which is mixed reality, which is a combination of the both together. And there's a new term that's come out now, which is what is called XR, which is when all three of those coexist. So let me give you some examples of this. How many of you enjoyed your lunch? Well, lunch was good, eh? This is what's happening in your body right now, okay? So imagine what you're sitting down and doing now. Excuse this movement, but what you'll see now is you'll see, imagine if you've got a set of glasses on or goggles on, and you can actually learn about what's happening in your digestive tract all the way through and step by step. Now imagine your biology class when you were in school was like this. I think most of us would have actually passed biology, because I certainly didn't, because you couldn't visualize the inside of a leaf. You couldn't visualize what your heart was doing. Now you can, all right? This is a bad example of it simply because I had to download the video here. But if you go and you put this onto YouTube, you can actually click on this and drag and see the experience in a 360-degree view. Now let's take this to another step. What about history? Imagine teaching World War II history where you can put on a VR headset or you can go onto YouTube and you can experience what it was like landing at Dunkirk. And as they start building more and more of this, you take it into geography. How many of you have been able to go and climb the mountains of Mount Everest? Well, with virtual reality, you can go and physically experience the sounds and the sights. The only thing you won't be able to do is the smells. From what I've heard, it's not a bad thing to miss out on. So it's a fantastic way of how virtual reality will be bringing into the classroom and will accelerate learning. Okay? What do we need to be able to do this? We need connectivity. We need devices. We need security. We need, we can go on and on and on at the role where we play within that environment. I'm not going to prolong this video because right at the end, yes, it does happen with a big splash. So we'll finish with that there and move on to the next one. Here's another example. This is augmented reality. You can see you're sitting in the class, you're sitting in your home, and what you're able to do is bring out and start breaking up the components within the biology and actually seeing exactly how the bones are structured and things like that. Now, we all know we've seen augmented reality. How many of you have used augmented reality on your cell phone? Okay, I want to give you a tip. Try this. Any sign where there's text, in fact, take a catalog. Open up your Google Translate, right? Step one, open up Google Translate. Switch on your camera. Say translate from English to Mandarin Chinese. And watch how your screen will translate what it sees there. This is not future, it's on your cell phone. You've just never used it. Now imagine that when you're learning how to read or you're traveling across the world and you get to a place where there's a sign that says, turn left here to go to the Rectron conference, except that you can't understand it because it's in Filipino. Well, put augmented reality on your phone, open up your Google Translate, translate it to English, you'll know exactly where you are. Imagine what that does in the education sector and how it grows. So augmented reality is probably one of the fastest and the most advanced ways and the most practical technologies we're going to start seeing in schools. Virtual reality, yeah, we'll see it, but only in the top schools. Augmented reality, you'll see it from quintile 5 all the way down to quintile 1 in the future. Mark my words. There's another thought. This is an example of mixed reality. I'm going to let the ACER video play. This is ACER's technology called Spatial Labs. Watch what it does in the engineering sector and in the design sector and the medical sector.
See things from a new perspective with Spatial Labs on Concept D. This cutting-edge technology combines a lenticular lens display and 2 eye-tracking cameras to render your 2D models in a 3D space in real time, enabling new experiences and applications across a wide range of industries. User-friendly and easy to use, you'll enhance your workflows like never before with vivid, precise, and realistic visuals through every step of the process. Spatial Labs gives you the most in-depth and immersive viewing experience ever, letting you bring everyone into the world you create to better enjoy, visualize, and understand your big ideas. Avoid unnecessary steps in your workflow as you realize your designs in a highly precise working environment, narrowing the gap between conception and completion. and allowing you to visualize your ideas in a 3D environment so real that you feel like you can reach out and touch your creation. With Spatial Labs on Concept D, add a new dimension to your creations.
So Spatial Labs is, as I say, the technology that ASA owns that utilizes the technology of a computer to bring things to life. Why is this important? Why does this make a big difference? Well, imagine if you're designing a bridge and you can only build for certain amounts of hours. You can replicate that live and put it into life and do it and provision it and have a look at the full impact almost instantaneously. And these are the technologies that are going to become more and more available in and around time. But here's the key thing what does this mean for the tech sector? And this is really what we've got to understand, that where education goes to, what does it mean? First of all, cloud. Now I know that there's a lot of guys talking cloud in and around that. How many of you were aware, I'm pretty sure if you keep your ears to the ground, yesterday, Google announced that they will be deploying data centers and regions down here in South Africa, one in Cape Town, one in Durban. What does it mean? You're about to be inundated with the cheapest form of cloud available. Okay. Not only that, you're talking about a pipeline that is dedicated to Google Cloud, that is the Iguana cable, I always pronounce it incorrectly, that will run from Cape Town to the rest of the world. The fastest cable that Africa will have available is available and landing. This time next year, it's going live. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the reality is that cloud infrastructure, as you know it now, is about to be disrupted at a level that nobody else is there. You've got to understand that these guys are going to put people out of business. Okay? They are. Why? Because you can go online and you can provision your own cloud server on the Google Cloud within a couple of minutes, and if you have a problem, within a couple of minutes it'll be fixed. Why? Because they've got the best guys in the world that's coming. I'm not paid for by Google. I'm just telling you, this is the reality. What does it mean? It means artificial intelligence and all that Google knowledge will be available to South Africa at the click of the button. We think we've had it good with Google search. Wait till we see that come to life. Connectivity is key. Obviously, we got to make sure that connectivity stays where it is, and what's important about connectivity is you need to be able to feed both ways. But cloud and connectivity together are quite an important, powerful combination. Why? Because if the processing power is sitting in the cloud, your connectivity doesn't have to be what we think it does. You can go and game nowadays on a 10 megabyte line, up and down line, and have a decent quality game. Yeah, it's not the best. 20 megs, more than enough. Here in South Africa, we're all rushing out for a 500 meg line or a 1 terabyte, 1 gigabyte line. What for? You don't need it because the processing power sits in the cloud. So connectivity is important in the education sector. Obviously, it goes without saying. What else is important? Security. So if you've got a security and antivirus software when you're talking, that's quite important. Make sure that you've got that in place. And then, of course, the last one, which again, I'm going to do it now. This is where we take a few breaks and we actually pay some bills. We talk about the devices. Devices are important as well because it's important to have the right device. We heard in Mark's conversation earlier around Google that one of the key things that they're doing in their school, one of the key elements within that school is having the correct device in front of the kid. If you don't have the correct device in front of the kid, it's there. I say this often to people. I don't have to talk about my competitors being poor by giving this wrong device. I can talk about ASA. We are frustrated with people going to your local retailer to buy devices for education. Why? Because they're not the right devices. They don't perform well. They don't do what they're supposed to. And they're not made and built for that environment. It's very important that you're there. So for example, we spoke about Spatial Labs. Concept D is a type of a product that's there. What does Concept D have? Well, it's got a high resolution Delta E gamut screens. Things like that make it clearer and easier to design. We look at things like, for example, the augmented reality that comes from the VR side of things within the gaming environment and making sure that esports stays where it needs to be and grows more and more. One of the key devices that we just can't keep up with enough now is what we refer to as the ASA B311. This is a device that is fit and made for education. It's not only is it a performance device in terms of what it can actually do, it's built to be ruggedized. We were at a Schoolscapes conference earlier this year and I was literally throwing the devices around. The guys can test. And it was the most amazing thing because that's what kids do. It needs to be able to be durable. It needs to be able to have long battery life. The keyboard design, something as simple as a keyboard, the kids sit there and they pick on the keyboards. This is an opportunity for you as resellers to go into schools and say, hey guys, we understand what happens at your classroom level, and this is what we're able to do in and around it. So these are the type of devices we need to make sure that we are pushing and moving into the schools. And from an ASA point of view, it's a very important area of ours, is that we don't only think school, but we understand school. We understand that a desk is only that big, and you can't go and put a 15.6-inch device. Why? Because it inhibits learning. You've got to have the right device. So these are a range of devices that you'd be looking at and how you would then position it. If you're going to a school or you're going to university, it doesn't matter where you're going to. What is fit for purpose? There's a place for tablets. There's a place for devices that are ruggedized. You've got your devices for your high school learners and that. Now, it's not to say that there's not other devices in our range. This is just a consolidated view of the different areas. Higher education. What about your teachers and your administrators? What are they looking for? And what is it? All age and model appropriate. Remember what we say, fit for purpose. Great, fantastic. First world stuff. How many of you believe that that will be implemented in South Africa before 2050? Anybody? But let's see, you really over there, one person. So if you believe that augmented reality, virtual reality will be implemented in the South African schooling system in 2050 or even in 2085 when this generation of grade ones matriculates retires, I would love to see that happening. I'm not convinced it's going to happen. So how do we make it real? What are we looking at? Well, the devices are there. I'm going to take a step back from the ASA side of things, and I'm going to say to you, I want to give you some insight as to what I personally, in my experience, believe is going to happen in education and what the big key fundamentals are. Here's a bit of an overview. South Africa has 25,119 various education institutions. Those are broken up between higher education, TVET colleges and external learning colleges, private independent schools, secondary and primary schools as well. Notice how many more primary schools there are than secondary schools. We wonder why kids are dropping out. Okay, right, opportunity number one. How do we keep the kids in schools beyond grade 10? Okay, very important. Tell you what, sell them the wrong device when they're in grade 9, they'll go offline in grade 10. Okay, and they'll never be banned. So when you make a decision and you go to a school and you sell them an ASA 4 gig 500 Celeron and you wonder why that kid drops out, well, we sold them the wrong device. How do we keep them alive in the system? I'm just using an example. The schools are broken up into different quintiles. I think most of us know that. Quintile 1 to 5. 5 being the highest, the more expensive Model T type schools. Quintile 1 being the areas where the schools are in the rural areas. How do we make it real to Quintile 1 and Quintile 2? So I want to show you what I believe is going to be happening. And this is based on a presentation or documents that we submitted that when I was, before I came to ASA a couple of years ago, we actually had a conversation with the board of directors at one of the state-owned entities. And here's the thing. I'm going to change it up a little bit so you can see. The very first thing I want to talk about is connection. How do we connect and how do we get the lessons to the learners? The second thing I want to look at is content. How does that content get delivered? The third thing is how do we collaborate? And the fourth thing is the assessment part of things. How do we check? This is the proctoring. How do we check that everything is? Now here, I want to take you on a journey of how I believe we're going to start seeing education move, not only in South Africa, but in Africa. How many of you here pay your TV licenses? It's the right thing to do. Okay? How many of you object to paying your TV licenses? Right. How many of you object to the fact that we don't have a proper education in our country? Every single one of us. How do the two link together? South Africa is building a digital terrestrial network. Okay? A TV network. This TV network has the ability through a set-top box to broadcast, send a whole bunch of messages down. Okay? What we have now is we have a connection into every single household in the country free of charge. No fiber needed. No 3G, no LTE, digital connection, right? Imagine what's happening now in and around this and what your ability is to be able to deliver this. Now we combine that with a Netflix type of operating system and a platform. What does that mean? Well, imagine a channel that is embedded in Netflix, SABC, ETV's, EDOC, or whatever their new system, and DSTV, which is the learning channel. The learning channel has pre-recorded content in all 11 official languages, in all grades, from grade 1 all the way up to grade 12. Okay? Each lesson is broken up into 15-minute slots that allows a kid who doesn't understand Pythagoras to go and find it in their home language and learn what is going on. No connection, no extra fee, it's just made available, all right? That's the reality of what can be done. How will we now move to the next one, which is what we spoke about? The first one was connection. We've got this massive TV network, let's use it. What about the content? We've spoken about that. Let's talk about the collaboration. So this is your usage of mobile users, 26 million mobile users on smartphones that is predicted by 2023 and growing at a rapid rate. Now you're sitting in front of your lesson, you're learning, you're now checking out, and what you want to do is you want to assess and communicate with the teacher. How do you do it? Use your smartphone. You can also use your tablet, you can use your Acer device, you can use all of that. But we're talking quintile 1, quintile 2, we're talking really entry level here. And with that can come question and answer sessions with a call center type of teachers who are able to engage and there. These are not just people that are picked up on the side of the road. These are proper teachers, qualified people to answer these questions in the vernacular of the individual that's learning. What about assessment? Well, this is where we spoke about proctoring. When I can do an assessment online and it can be marked online using artificial intelligence, I can then know exactly where I am. Remember that statement I made earlier where I said age groups, first half of the year, second half of the year, behavioral problems, learning disability, things like that? Well, imagine now you're learning at your own pace because you're going onto your TV box or your digital box and you're learning from the digital box and you're going at your own pace. You know what, I know this section, skip it, let's go to the next one. And you can learn at your own pace in that individualization and you can be assessed and you can essentially go through your learning career substantially faster. And I want to close with this one. This is I think it's good old South Africans, we like to quote Madiba in that last one, but this is quite key. Education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, that a child of a farm worker can become a president of a country, talking about himself. It is what we make out of it, it is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates us from one another. We have the facilities in South Africa. We have the intelligence. We have the opportunities. All we need is the willpower. And people like ourselves in the technology game, if we understand this, we can help take education to the next level. You want to eradicate corruption? Provide jobs. You want to provide jobs? Provide education for people to be able to be educated and start and being entrepreneurs. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where I'm going to end. So my time is up. I've got 10 minutes left for questions and answers. But I think you can see a bigger view in terms of where... Oh, thanks very much. This is for me.
You're going to ask a question, one question. Whoever gets it right wins.
Fantastic. We're out of time. But guys, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're going to end it there. Let's. Are there any questions before we go on? No questions? Did I answer all your questions? I think it's a very broad view of where we see technology going to and our role within as ASA. We have a place to play. And we have to make sure that we all play a role in educating because education is going to fix our country long term. That I can guarantee you. Right, let's ask a question. I need a question.
Okay, you can take your headsets off. Okay, so the question I'm going to ask and Mr. Wayne is going to present to you. Simple question is, which distributor gives you the benefit in green for education for the future? Wayne, it is, who is it? Sorry, say it again. No, you're the weakest link. We got it. Another question?
No more questions. It was a loaded question because they paid for the prize. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Anybody want to talk a little bit more around ASA products and everything, please go to our stand. The team is there ready to chat to you. All the best and thanks for listening to me waffle on.